All right, all right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of Daily Dose of Tech and also the sixth video on the topic Azure Bicep. I'm your friend Nishko, and you are watching this playlist called Daily Dose of Tech, where we come and discuss one topic for an hour and, without any structure, without any preparation, just, an ad hoc kind of presentation. The main goal of this specific series is to, discuss, obviously first discuss that specific topic, come up with a good content or notes and sharing with the people to get the feedback, and later then preparing a good quality structured content on that specific piece. So we are currently discussing Azure Bicep, so definitely we'll be gonna create a new structured a short form of videos that we are getting content from this specific series. We have a certain format, and for the same purpose I'm gonna just set a clock of 1 hour, which will help us in sticking with the time. And it's already 1 minute over, so I'm gonna just do 59 minutes and I'll start. Right. So yeah, uh, let's start our video and continue the files. Okay. The playlist thumbnail I need to update. It's already probably gonna get updated on the video. But yeah, let's move. So we before okay, obviously before we start this thing, if you are interested in following any topic on the tech, please feel free to. I mean, obviously, you will be watching this on the YouTube, so please feel free to subscribe the channel. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram and all those things, so I'm definitely there. If you want to connect me professionally, I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to talk about any different thing on, or you want to get my opinion, you can do that on X. All the notes and all the projects links are gonna be on GitHub. And the most important thing, if you want to join the community of the tech which we are building here on Discord, please join, do so. Here we will be creating projects in group. Will be doing some we will be creating some apps, we will be studying Azure, we will kind of engaging and doing live stream around the tech only. And we are building the biggest community of tech in India, or specifically on in this Discord server. So feel free to join. All the possible links are in the description of the video. And yeah, let's get started. Without wasting a time, I would just like to, we have been revising all the content since the day one and preparing our notes. But definitely by down the line, I'm gonna prepare Notion notes as well, so that you do not need to create your own notes and you can just read it out as well. So we started with an Azure Bicep. It's an infrastructure deployment language for created by Microsoft for deploying infrastructure on Azure. Uh, we can deploy we can deploy a lot of different ways on Azure using Azure Portal, CLI, PowerShell, Bicep, Terraforms, and we are focusing on the Bicep part. Now, uh, there are some benefits of Biceps, and that's why it's more kind of popular among the Azure developers and in the industry. First of all, it's no cost, because it's maintained by the Azure, the Microsoft itself. So it's an no cost open source. And other popular benefits are, it has a simple syntax, it's repeatable, preview changes you can do. You do not need to actually deploy your infrastructure and get charged for your infrastructure. You can always preview the changes, and if you are sure you want to deploy it, you can do that. Modularity, that's also a good thing, that it's just helps you in in kind of structuring your bicep file, right? All right. So we started by explaining that there is an important concept of scope, and scope is very needed, not in terms of just understanding where the infrastructure is placed, but also in the terms of deployment. Because when you are deploying something using the using the Azure Bicep, you have to provide these informations. And the best thing and the important thing to take care is that this thing, you cannot deploy all the resources on the all of the scope, so you have to be very specific about it as well. Moving to the next topic, there is a concept of Azure Provider and Azure Types. Azure Provider is kind of a collection of services that takes care of delivering that the specific types of the resources. For example, Azure Compute is a provider, and it has the responsibility to kind of validate the input and kind of take the resource and create the infrastructure based on the user request. Uh, the similar type of Azure providers are Azure Storage, Azure Security, Azure Network, Azure Vault, and they have all different types of services that we see on the Azure. In this specific example that you're seeing on the board, it's Azure Compute. Azure Compute is here. It has Azure VM, images, disk, virtual screen sets. So these are all the things that are provided by Azure Compute. Okay, and in the previous videos, we started how we downloaded Azure CLI, we Azure Bicep, and to download that, we first installed the Azure CLI, then we installed the Azure Bicep using the Azure Bicep install, right? We then started by creating our first Bicep file, and we deployed our first resource, which is a resource group on the subscription. Why on the subscription and not on the group? Because a resource group cannot be deployed on the Azure subscription. There are two things that we have to be very specific, and we should do it in a proper way so that it kind of gives more presentation, and it makes it easier to deploy things on the Azure. It's resource group, it's deployment name, it's resource name, and sorry, deployment name. So resource name is the actual name that you see on the Azure portal of a specific resource, so that you also have to provide. But there is a deployment name, and that deployment name is related to the deployment history that you see on the Azure, maybe on the subscription level or on the resource group level. So you have to specify that in such a way that your each deployment using the Azure CLI, what we are doing is having a unique name. There are many ways to do it, and I will be covering that. Let me take a note, and I'll be covering that in future, that how you can strategize that concept and deliver things. So here is the thing, Azure. So I'll just gonna make a note for myself that Azure deployment strategy. Deployment name strategy. Then we created our first parameter file. Parameter file is a way to kind of reuse your Bicep file and produce more resources by referencing the same Bicep file or the standard that you have already set. You do not need to write a Bicep file for each of the things. So you just declare your Bicep file and point your parameter file to that Bicep file, and it is gonna the values are gonna provided from the parameter file, but the structure is gonna be from the Azure Bicep file. There are few keywords that we watched that we studied probably in the last videos, and these, as similar to any programming languages, we have that here as well: data types, variables, resources, output modules, import, existing loops, dependencies, and all those things. We'll be seeing how to use these things in a structured way. And right, Bicep data types, then we have any array, booleans, integer. It's all on the screens, you can have a look at it as well. There are few operators that, okay, I have not updated these things, but there are few operators that we need to study. All right, there are these things. Then okay, let me just open my VS Code for myself, where we are doing this thing. All right, this is the VS Code, and just to give you a recap, that we started showing that how to deploy our first resource, and that was our Azure resource group, RG. And that Azure resource group is kind of having the we defined everything that we needed to see on our resource group Bicep file, and then we declared the parameter file here. Then in the next type of resource that we picked up for going through all the different types of values that are provided from the Azure, we use the route table, and we were kind of transforming the original Bicep file so that we can take the maximum benefit of the parameter file here. Yeah, so let's just see. Let me just okay, so let's jump to our VS Code, and we'll directly try to upload this. Sorry, I'm not upload, but we will try to deploy this resource to our Azure environment, and we'll see what are the issue we are getting. So yeah, I'll open my CLI command. CLI, okay. First of all, we'll make sure that we have the our yeah, all the parameters are ready, so our Bicep is ready. So what we'll do is deployment. Okay, the thing is that now here this specific resource can be deployed on a resource group level. And what does that mean is we will be using another command this time. We will be using another command this time, which is gonna deploy that specific resource on the Azure, on the resource group. My bad. So AZ deployment group, AZ deployment group. Now I need to name the name of the file, which is gonna be under route table under rt.bicep, and then I'm gonna give my parameter file name, which is again on the route table, and my first. So this is a CC one, CC bicep parameter. Now, as I'll just take a quick pen and I'll just show you that the only difference we have made so far is this group thing. So this is the group thing that we have made difference, because this represents that we are going to deploy to our resource group. Just to give you a context, we deployed the resource group using this command, and now we are using this command because our route table can be deployed on the resource group level. And I'll show you as well that how it can be deployed on the subscription level as well. Now there is a bit difference. It's I'm not sure how to explain, but there is a bit difference in the context. Like there are few more things that I have to provide here, which is gonna be, let's say, okay, which is gonna be this. Obviously, location. The location is one of the things that we have to provide, but I think it's not necessary because our resource group. Because when we are deploying a resource to a resource group using the CLI, the location parameter is not needed. Why? Because the resource group is already allocated to a specific location. So what we have to do is just to define, I think, RG or G, which means resource group, and I will be bringing the same resource. I will be bringing the same resource. Let me just pause this. I don't want to show my history. So okay, now let's continue. I'm just gonna open portal.azure.com. I will let's I have to change my directory. Oh my god, so many things I have to do. All right, so let's try to deploy it. Before that, I'm not sure quite what are the values I need to provide it here. So my thing is gonna be that I'll be looking at the Azure deployment group code. So I'll just press the Control C. I'm gonna clear it just to see what are the arguments and parameter that I need to provide. Azure deployment group dash help and Azure deployment group create dash help. So I need to provide the resource group, the name, and the deployment file and the parameter file. Okay, so these are the things required for me to deploy any resource to a specific resource group level, right? So that's what we will be doing. Azure deployment group create, let's say I'll give the name as my first route table 001, and we're gonna progress it because as you know that we need to give a new deployment name as well for every deployment. So that's what we are doing it here. We are gonna give the bicep file name, so it should be in the route table slash rt.bicep, and then in the parameter file I'll be giving it route table slash my first cc dot bicep parameter, and location we do not need to give because in the resource group we are already bringing the location. The resource group is already kind of present in a specific, deployed in a specific location, so we do not need to give it to that. All right, so by default we'll just start with debug so that it gives more of the log, and we'll write what if to check how our deployment is going to do, and I'll press enter. Perfect. There is some error, is that I did not provide the resource group which was decided. Okay, so we'll go to the resource, and let's say in the Canada my first resource group, I'm gonna use this name, and I will be providing I will be deploying my resource here. So resource group equal to this value, and now I'll deploy it again. All right, so it's validating all the things, and whatever my bicep file or anything, the content that I have written in my bicep file, if it is as per the API of the route table or not. So this step is actually doing that validation. So as you can see, that is not a valid according to the validation procedure. See the inner. Okay, so season public route is invalid, request was not found. So virtual appliance is something that is not found. So as you might be knowing, that virtual appliance that I have written here is not allowed. We'll debug, we'll go deeper into it, and we'll see route table official deployment file. So we came here, and what are the values we can use? So I mean, we can use, okay, virtual, there is no space in the virtual appliance, that we did mistake. So I'll just come up here, and I will fix it here, and I will run the deployment. After clearing, I will run the deployment again. It failed because the official API does not support any other values, so we can use this thing. We have to provide the values according to the API. Okay, now it failed again, and it's saying that the it must begin with a word, and it must end with a word. The name contains word. Okay, the template resource name, my first route is in my first resource name, my first route is different. Okay, so that's what we get. So the name needs to be kind of written in a way there that it does not have any space. So these are the validation, and it, for example, if you see here the name, they do not provide any such validation that the name needs to be have without no string or anything like that. It's just what you will be getting once you try to deploy and put some value. So you have to keep the validations according to it. We'll try one more time. Okay, now we got another error. It's just saying the next hop IP address for route is invalid. It should be a valid IP address. Okay, give me, okay, I do not know, so give me, I mean, I do not have any IP. So what I will do, I'll just see if I have, for an example, I'll just create a VNet, and a subnet. This is just for us, virtual network. We'll go with, oh, where is that virtual network? Azure services only, virtual network. Okay, so we created, let's just create a one virtual network and get the value from then. Test network. Next. Yeah, whatever you guys decide. Create it for me now. Okay, so my VNet is correct, and I need to just give it. I just need a specific VNet so that I can allow it. So I'll be using this here because address prefix. So everything address prefix next hop address this, and I will just use. I'll just use this 24, and probably the 24 0 is not allowed, right? So first three. So let's say I'll just put 5, 4, and I'll do /32. I'll just check. So this is not something that you guys have to think. Whatever you guys want to write, put the IP. You can do that, but I am doing it here because I do not know what IP I need to provide. So I'm just coming up with a good IP that I can put it here. Yeah, it still did not work. /32 it did not work. Valid IP address. I don't know what's valid, what's not valid. Does it need to have next hop IP address as this? I'll just check. What happened? Error, the following token is not recognized. Okay, so something is wrong with my value. Okay, let's see if this time we are able to validate our changes or not. Perfect. So okay, just forget about the content of the route table. What I want to show you from this is that how we provided this values which are acceptable to the APIs, and to come up with the right amount of information that the API you need to have, which is basically at this point of time Azure is not providing, how in a way you have to write it and all those things. It's very difficult. So uh, if you are working on a new bicep file for any specific service, you have to try everything, and you have to try deploying these things, and come up with right validation that what you can put and what you cannot put. So will do it. Description will provide the descriptions and will make it more user friendly for the users, so that they will not end up in figuring it out the service how to write it. Now the thing is, let's just we see that we can deploy it. Now let's just deploy it, right? We saw what's the validation, and it looks good to us. So we have chosen the resource, my resource group nsgcc, and we'll go to that resource group. So my resource group, my first resource group nsgcc, and here in the deployment, as you will be seeing, that I give this name, and it's going to deploy all the changes here. And if I go here, it's created a record, and I can see the record, and it's giving it here. What I want to show, and if we go back to the CLI, it's giving back the same thing. Basically what changes you did. Now in Azure, in Bicep, the whatever the changes you do, it does an incremental change. That is what they have. That is what they do. I'm not sure if they can do some delete operation or not, because it's always an incremental mode. So if your change is if your change, whatever the services you have mentioned in your Bicep file, if it's present already in the environment, so it will put the changes on top of it. But if that specific name is not present and your parameter looks good, it will create a new resource for that. And that's what the difference. What I will be doing is that I did modify, let's modify my value. And because it's going to be a new deployment, what I would like to do here is that I will be kind of updating my deployment name. And this deployment, because I'm doing a second deployment and I want to keep my deployment as unique as a list on the Azure portal. So I will gonna update the name here, and what it will do, it will go back to here and it will create for example deployment. It's going to create a new entry, and that is what I'm trying to explain everyone, that it's very important to keep the naming of the deployment as unique, because eventually if the deployment name is not unique and you are deploying even the different type of services using the same under the same deployment name, your history will be the most recent one, and it will give you difficulty in figuring it out what exact mistake you did in the past. So let's say in the past I added a route table with a route 01, but in the new one I want to update it to 05. I'll go back, sorry, 05. Then this will be doing that for you. It will create a new history of the deployment and it will deploy there. All right, friends, I guess I have to you know uh, stop today's recording due to some extra work, and obviously I didn't plan perfectly today. I always wanted to do this series for at least an half an hour, but I don't want to break the inconsistency as well. So rest of the things I'll be covering next day, and I will be continuing from there. Till then, feel free to comment out or anything that you would like to share. And yeah, goodbye.